Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the High School Sports Beat. I am Dave Yates. It's time now for the High School Notebook, and that means once again it's time for Matt Trabold to join us. Matt, thanks so much for jumping on board.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, let's talk some hoops. Let's talk college hoops. Let's talk Siena basketball and somebody from the Section 5 picking up right where they left off.
So COVID-19 has affected the schedules of various college hoops programs in very different ways, depending on what part of the country, state by state, just all over the place. Everyone's been affected to a certain degree, but unfortunately for Siena men's basketball, that meant the Saints were one of the very last Division I programs to begin its season. It was not until January 3rd, so very late, especially compared to a usual season. They are in the second semester even. Unsurprisingly, not so arguably the best player in the conference, that conference being the MAAC for a couple years now, one of the very best players in the mid-major ranks and beyond since he began college ball, and former Aquinas student-athlete Jalen Pickett. He's been exceptional again, no surprise there. This early season, he's averaging 18 points per game through 3 ball games, including an efficient 20 points in the season opener versus Monmouth. The point guard followed that up with a career-high 14 boards in the next game. Obviously, big coming out of the backcourt player there with all those double-digit boards. Most recently, Jalen scored his 1,000th career college point in a game versus Fairfield. As one of his former high school coaches, John McCauley, who was at Aquinas, as he tweeted, 1,000 points would have happened as a sophomore for Jalen if not for the end of the season last year being canceled. Here in 2021, Jalen has led Siena to 13 wins in a row, carrying over from last season, and the program's first 3-0 start in 17 years. Jalen doing it again.
All right, let's head way out west now to New Mexico and the connection there as well.
New Mexico men's basketball has also had a more unorthodox season than most during these COVID-19 times. The Lobos started late in mid-December, though not quite as late as Jalen Pickett and company. But UNM has actually had to move its home court this season to another state due to that state, New Mexico, the recent policies prohibiting team sports. New Mexico has been playing its home games at Lubbock Christian University in Lubbock, Texas. Coming into this season, former Leadership Academy and recent Arcadia student-athlete Keith McGee had a lot of eyes on him as one of only 2 seniors in the team, or on that team coming to this season with McQuatch Malawach. Keith was especially doing well in a recent 2-game stretch versus Nevada and Utah State. Back-to-back games there. He led the team in scoring in both of those ones with a combined 24 points in 6 made 3 balls. He leads the Lobos in made 3s this season. A couple games prior to those versus Boise State, McGee left the game with an ankle injury, so he's obviously recovered well from that. It has certainly been a successful few years there for McGee after his stint in JUCO basketball. It's great to see.
Well, from way out west, let's talk about Wesleyan. And finally, for local hoop fans, some college action coming up very soon.
Yeah, with the exception of the Division I women's ice hockey and men's ice hockey teams for RIT, which have been a joy to cover, the greater Rochester area has not really had quote-unquote high-risk college sports since the pandemic hit. That is until January 10th when the men's hoops team at the one D2 school in the Rochester area you mentioned a second ago, Roberts Wesleyan, began its season against Brighton Stratton Buffalo. The Red Hawks have a number of former Section 5 players, the Lewis brothers, Isaiah and Eric from Churchville, Reggie Clark from Arcadia, Shane Fanning from Rush Henrietta, and Caleb Anger from CG Finney. In a 6-point win in that opener, Clark had 16 points, Isaiah Lewis had 11, and Mari Lee had 17 points. 8 boards and 4 steals. An interesting matchup in technically their second game of the season. That's January 16th versus D1 Niagara. That does not usually happen for the Red Hawks. That's a big game there, obviously. The Roberts Wesleyan women's basketball team began things Tuesday night. Former Huntington Falls Lima star Taryn Wilson is on that squad. Also wanted to mention Reggie Clark was the leading scorer for Roberts a season ago. And I wanted to say before I end here, I wish Thomas Bryant, we talked about him last week, I wish him the best of luck in his recovery from an ACL injury against the Heat that is likely to sideline him for the rest of this season. He was having, like we talked about, one of the very best seasons by a front court player in the last 30 years of the NBA. So we really feel for Thomas with that.
I echo those sentiments. Thanks very much, Matt. Great having you on board. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. We're back with more of the High School Sports Beat right after this.